People, the headlines, the issues impacting you and your family. This week in Cincinnati on WCPO 9.
Hello, and welcome to This Week in Cincinnati. I'm Tanya O'Rourke. We have reported extensively for you about the corruption cases at Cincinnati City Hall. Tamaya Denard was sentenced to 18 months for bribery. Jeff Pastor is fighting similar charges, and P.G. Sittenfeld is accused of improperly taking donations for his political action committee. All three cases involve development deals. Federal authorities went so far as to say there is a culture of corruption at City Hall. Now, Mayor John Cranley has appointed an ethics panel to look at how city officials interact with developers. Anne Marie Tracy will lead the panel. She's a former Hamilton County Common Pleas judge, assistant U.S. attorney, and former chair of the Ohio Ethics Commission. I spoke with her by Zoom this week about the challenges facing the Cincinnati panel.
Joining me right now is former Judge Anne Marie Tracy. Thanks so much for spending this time with us. And you are now, of course, the ethics panel chair. So let's start right there. Number one, Mayor John Cranley said to us that this was a sad situation to even have to have an ethics panel. So what are you empowered to do, and how do you do it?
Well, we'll see. That's a great question, Tanya, and thank you so much for having me here. The panel is the Economic Development Reform Panel, and it grew out of the situation we've unfortunately had recently with 3 of our city council members indicted. Dave Mann proposed the ordinance, city council adopted it, and it empowered John Cranley, our mayor, to empower a 9-person panel to examine the state of development in the city of Cincinnati, to do some homework, get some background, collect some information, and eventually make recommendations to city council about what reforms might be appropriate. So we don't have any decision-making power, but we're going to be making some recommendations.
Okay, and so have you begun the process even?
We have not had our first meeting yet. My understanding was this week, the final list of panelists is being presented to City Council for their consideration.
Okay,
so not yet the chair.
So you're the chair, but you don't know exactly who your entire panel might be just yet.
Oh no, I know that, but we have not officially been empowered. So if City Council approves us, then our first meeting will be Friday, February 12th.
It is an odd thing, don't you think, to have city council impaneling a group to judge them?
Well, it would be if that's what we're doing, but we're not. So the work of our panel is really prospective. It's aspirational. I've heard people call it the anti-corruption panel, the clean out City Hall panel. And for me, that's a low bar. We're going to aim a little bit higher to formulate some recommendations that really will promote best practices.
Okay, so how do you envision that happening? So when you talk about best practices, it's for our audience's purposes. As you mentioned, 3 of our Cincinnati City Council members have been either accused or found guilty of bribery, selling their votes for developers. And so, how many people in city government should be meeting with prospective developers about prospective projects? And I imagine that's what you're going to be delving into.
That is one of the #1 questions. So good for you. The city manager and the mayor have been considering just that question, because under the city charter, and I am new to this, but my understanding is under the city charter, the administration, council, and the mayor each has lanes within which to operate, which would apply to development because it talks about legislative duties, administrative duties, and so forth. So one of the questions will be, what is in the city charter and how do we apply those requirements to the current situation? Has city council strayed from its job, which is a legislative job? Is the city mayor empowered to deal with development? So those are some of the questions we'll be looking at.
Right now, we've had a situation where, I mean, as far as I understand it right now, really it's just the city manager, a group of people in the mayor's office, and the mayor himself, who should be meeting with developers about projects. City council really should not be meeting with developers, talking about these projects until those projects are in before them in council. There's a whole question about morality. And you can sit there and say, these are our recommendations, but we elect a body every couple of years to city council. Mm-hmm. We don't always know everything about council members that we are electing. And we don't know the moral fiber necessarily of these folks. How do we even legislate this morality?
Well, you've asked a couple of key questions. No, we don't know everything about everybody. And one of the fixes we will be considering, I'm sure, is the whole question of transparency and disclosure. Some cities have and I've just begun my look at this, but some cities, and I believe it's the city of Columbus, it's either Columbus or Cleveland, requires disclosure by the developer if they've had contacts with the city council member or made contributions to them. I think it's primarily contributions. So that whole disclosure and transparency piece will be really, really critical to hopefully promoting good behavior and also letting the public know where some city council people may be on the question of discussions with developers and so forth.
How long does something like, you said you're just starting to delve into this, you don't even have your full panel impaneled. So how long does this process take?
Well, originally, David Mann introduced the ordinance, and originally he set May 1st as the target date. Well, it'll be mid-February by the time we had our first meeting, so I think we all kind of panicked at that. So we did recommend that City Council extend that to August 1st. But I don't think it's going to take a long time, and the whole panel will determine how we approach this. So I don't want to suggest that whatever I'm saying today is what everybody agrees with or sure. How they want to do it. But I sort of see it falling into three buckets. The foundation bucket, we have to learn what the current process is. How does it really work? What are the existing laws and so forth? The exploration the exploration piece, David Mann and City Council in the ordinance has asked us to look out for best practices in other cities or other parts of maybe North America or other places. So we hope to do that. And then after we have that piece, I think then we get to the recommendation piece. So I see it as gathering information, checking out best practices, and then getting to recommendations.
What does it say about our city government, the people within our city government, that we even need this ethics panel?
Well, they say, and I one of the things I did when I was at Xavier was I taught business ethics, and there's a lot of literature about it. And it's really a question that organizations, both for-profit and nonprofit, should ask all the time. I know Procter & Gamble, for instance, has a high priority on ethics. Good ethics is good for business, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit.
Well, be careful, Anne-Marie Tracy. You guys do such a good job. You may be impaneled for longer than you think, looking into many more opportunities within city government. We thank you so much for your time. We know that you're very, very busy, and we look forward to seeing your recommendations sometime in August.
Thank you very much. It was great to be with you.
Welcome back. I'm Kristen Hartman. It was about this time last year that concerns about the coronavirus in the tri-state really started to grow. In early March, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine made one of his first big COVID-19 decisions, canceling the Arnold Sports Festival in Columbus. Now the struggle is to roll out the vaccine as fast as possible. This week, I spoke with Governor DeWine about the shortage of vaccines and the decisions that is forcing him to make.
So we're getting somewhere between 130, 140,000 doses into the state every single week. But we have a big state and we have a long ways to go. So what we're hearing is, probably the biggest jump, the next big jump we're going to get is when Johnson & Johnson, when their vaccine is approved.
Good to know. Now I want to talk about the risk stratified vaccine rollout, matching vaccines to the population most at risk of death. And that would be our nursing home population. I was speaking with somebody today who said, we're seeing the effects now of that working. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we have one main goal, and that is to save lives. And we don't have enough vaccines. So we have to decide, how do we spend that vaccine every single week and get the most results? And the most results means saving the most people's lives. Over half the people who've died in Ohio have died from nursing homes. And so vaccinating that group was our number one priority. We started on the first day. In fact, we actually asked the federal government to let us start 3 days early, which they did. We have now completed a whole round of shots, the first shot in every nursing home in the state.
What do you say to a 45-year-old who really wants to get the vaccine and is worried about the timeline?
Well, I'm worried too. I think about this every single day. We would love to have more vaccine coming. We know at some point we will get more vaccine coming into Ohio. But I have to deal with the world as I find it. I have to deal with the vaccine that I get in every week. We're told on Tuesday how much Moderna we get, how much Pfizer we get. And look, we're getting our fair share. It's based on population. We're getting what we should be getting into Ohio, but it's just not very much. This virus has not gone away. Our cases are down, our hospitalizations are down, but we're very concerned about this variant that you keep reporting about. We have our own variant. It's called the Midwest variant. And, if it becomes the dominant strain in Ohio, the amount of spread will go up dramatically because it is, in fact, more contagious.
When I take a look at states ranked by percentage of COVID-19 vaccines administered February 1, Ohio ranks 32. Doses distributed, 1.5 million. Doses administered, 954,000. Percentage of distributed vaccines that have been administered, 61%. Where's the lag there? What's the explanation of that?
It's quite simple, maybe a little difficult to explain, but we made a decision. We were going to vaccinate in nursing homes first. To do that, and we have more nursing homes than any state in the union except one. To do that, the federal government required us to bank these shots, to put them in a bank and they are drawn out by our pharmacy partners, Walgreens, for example, CVS, who are doing the vaccinations. But at first, all those are counted as if they're coming into Ohio. They're not. They didn't come into Ohio. They come in every few days.
When you say bank it, do you mean put the second dose aside? Explain banking to me.
Yeah, on day one when we started, they took 350,000 of these and said, we're going to credit these with you. We're going to say you got them, but you're not going to get them. You're going to get them as Walgreens pulls them down, as CVS pulls them down. Things other than that program, it's counted as it's shipped, and we get it. We actually physically get it. We put it in arms, and we move on. That particular program really does skew the numbers.
Last question. Should there have been a bigger federal plan, or should the states be left to do this the way they want to?
Well, let me tell you what I told President Biden in a letter, and they asked every governor to send a letter and saying, what do you need? And I said, we can take care of vaccinating people. We can do that. If you want to give us some help, that's fine, but we can do that. What I can't produce more vaccine.
It means there are 50 different plans though, right? Because all the states are kind of different, and in a tri-state area, that's really tough.
Well, I tell you, it's a little confusing. I know some states have made different decisions. We felt that saving lives is the number one concern. but we also felt we had to get our healthcare workers vaccinated. We owed that to them, and they're the people who protect us every day.
Governor DeWine, as always, thank you for making yourself available to us and for explaining some of this. It's going to help our viewers considerably. We've had a lot of questions, as I'm sure you know. So thanks so much and take care.
Good to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome back. February is Black History Month, and we now have a much deeper understanding of the impact of Black-owned businesses have in our region. The top line figure, $1.4 billion. So, how does that compare to national figures? Courtney Francisco partnered with the Herald's Andrea Carter to help us understand.
When I mapped out this story with my partner at the Herald, we wanted to meet the businesses behind the study, like the owner of this daycare in Cincinnati, but we also wanted to meet the person who came up with it in the first place. Welcome to Able Building Systems, a small alarm company Eric Ruffin and his wife own that's been contributing to Cincinnati's economy for 21 years.
We talk to our team members, and they're sending kids to college and buying new cars and new houses.
Gary Davis opened Water Lily Learning Center 9 years ago, has 2 locations now, 23 employees, and says the business makes more than $1 million a year.
My employees, I try to ensure that they're paid a higher livable wage than most other employees. I provide medical, dental, vision. Like I said, we have a 401k, a matching 401k plan.
But no one has ever quantified the financial activity of Black-owned businesses in the United States until President of Greater Cincinnati's African American Chamber of Commerce, Eric Kearney, called the University of Cincinnati Economics Department last year.
There's a lot of talk about oh, let's help Black businesses. Oh, let's throw some money at this. Let's do this. And there was no statistics, no data behind it. And so now we have data. We can use that data to make informed decisions. We can use that data as a benchmark. So we're here. We want to grow to here. How do we do it? How much money should we spend? What type of resources do we have to put behind it?
After 10 months of research based on 2019 taxes, UC found the companies have a $1.4 billion economic impact on Greater Cincinnati. That includes parts of Kentucky and Indiana. Employ 8,680 people and generate about $6.2 million in sales tax.
But I cannot say, how are we compared to Charlotte? How are we compared to Baltimore? How are we compared to Phoenix? Because we're the first ones in the country to do it.
Kearney says we do know Black-owned businesses provide 1% of the goods and services produced in Greater Cincinnati, and African Americans account for more than 42% of Cincinnati's population, according to the 2010 census numbers.
Why is that? And what are the barriers that exist that prevent that? And what do we need to do to effectively allow opportunities for others to become part of the game?
Ruffin points to the picture behind him in his office as an inspiration for his small business.
When you're the smallest guy in the room, it's hard to get noticed. So that study was very meaningful to just letting other people know that, hey, there's some micro businesses out here that can give you great work at a fair price.
To read the Herald's broader breakdown of the study, go to our website, WCPO.com, and click on this story. Reporting in Cincinnati, Courtney Francisco, WCPO 9 News.
A new push began to vastly expand passenger rail in the Midwest. Amtrak proposing 5 new routes through Ohio, connecting Cincinnati to Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, New York City, and more. Here's a look at the routes Amtrak envisions. Transportation advocacy group All Aboard Ohio says this expansion depends on support from both state and local lawmakers. Federal funding would also need to be approved. And that is This Week in Cincinnati for this Sunday. Thanks for being with us, and join us for breaking news, weather, and sports at 6 and 11 tonight on WCPO 9 News. And we're always updating your headlines on WCPO.com.